Hey everyone, welcome to Life Reflections. Today I'm sharing a life story that might just hit home for you. If you enjoy it, give it a thumbs up, drop a comment with your thoughts, and hit that subscribe button to join me for more moments that matter. Let's dive in.
He thought leaving me in Italy was a joke. That joke changed everything. It was supposed to be a vacation. One of those dreamy, romantic, Pinterest-worthy getaways through the heart of Italy, Cinque Terre, Tuscany, a splash of Rome, then down the coast to Amalfi. We'd been planning it for months. Gabriel even bought a new camera just for the trip. Said he wanted to document everything. In hindsight, that should have been a red flag. Because what he ended up documenting, unintentionally, was the last chapter of our marriage. Let me rewind just a little. My name's Rachel. 34. Marketing consultant, book lover, frequent overthinker, and, until last summer, married for 10 years to a man who everyone else thought was perfect. He was charming. Suave. The guy who bought wine for your parents on holidays, remembered your dog's birthday, and called waiters by name like he owned the damn restaurant. The kind of man who, on paper, had it all: high-paying job in tech, a nice house outside Boston, great hair. Always great hair. But what people didn't see, what I didn't fully see, or maybe just refused to admit, was how easily charm can morph into cruelty when it's threatened. And how fast love can rot when control is lost. This story starts on the third day of our trip. We were in Vernazza, one of the pastel-colored towns in Cinque Terre, and we had just finished lunch. The kind of lunch that looks romantic on Instagram: seaside table, chilled white wine, 2 plates of seafood risotto, golden sun hitting the water like a filter. But the moment the waiter left, the moment the check hit the table, everything cracked. Because Gabriel made a comment. A stupid, smug, throwaway line about my body. Maybe lay off the pasta, babe. Just saying, we still got Capri next week. And I laughed. Not because it was funny, it wasn't, but because I was tired. Tired of pretending I didn't notice the constant critiques. The subtle digs. The backhanded compliments that always made me feel like I was failing some unspoken test of perfection. I said, calmly, "Don't say things like that to me, Gabriel. It's rude. It's mean. And honestly, it's getting old." He didn't like that. Gabriel hated being called out. Especially in public. Especially by me. "You're so sensitive lately," he muttered, waving the waiter back over. "It's just a joke. Don't make a scene." And I didn't. Not right away. But by the time we were walking back toward the parking lot, the conversation had morphed into a full-blown argument. The kind of fight that starts small, about pasta and tone, but swells into something deeper: old resentments, unspoken grievances, all the things you don't say when people are watching. "You always do this," he snapped, unlocking the car with a sharp click. "You ruin things." "I'm not ruining anything," I shot back. "I'm standing up for myself." "Sorry if that's new for you." Then he laughed, this ugly, biting laugh, and said something I'll never forget. "Well, maybe you need a little alone time. Let's see how you handle yourself without me for a change." And before I could respond, before I could even process what he meant, he slid into the driver's seat, turned the key, and slammed the door shut. The engine roared. And then the car started moving. And then, it didn't stop. The wheels spun over cobblestone as I stood frozen on the curb, mouth open, eyes wide, watching the love of my life, the man who vowed to never leave me, disappear around the corner, with 2 of his idiot friends in the backseat, laughing like teenagers pulling a prank. He left me. In Italy. With no wallet, no phone signal, no passport, and no idea what the hell to do next. The thing about shock is that it doesn't hit all at once. It creeps. First it's denial. Like, obviously he's going to turn around, right? This is a joke. A bad one, sure, but he'll circle the block. He'll be back in 2 minutes, maybe 3. I mean, who does that? What grown man leaves his wife stranded in a country where she barely speaks the language? I waited. 10 minutes. Then 15. Then 25. Still nothing. That's when the second wave hit, panic. I patted my pockets. No wallet. Of course. He was carrying it for safety because I had no zipper in my dress. My phone? Dead. Great. My backup battery? In the backpack, the one in the backseat of the rental he just drove off in. And that's when I realized what this actually was. It wasn't a joke. It was punishment. Punishment for pushing back. Punishment for being too emotional. Punishment for daring to make him uncomfortable in front of his friends, no less. Gabriel didn't know how to handle women who spoke up. That's something I should have learned the first time he rolled his eyes when I disagreed with him in front of his boss at a dinner party. Or the time he joked that my job wasn't a real career because it didn't require coding. But I was in love. And sometimes when you're in love, you mistake manipulation for concern. You confuse control for protection. And you think, if I just try harder, love better, be a little more agreeable, everything will work out. Until one day it doesn't. Until one day, you're standing alone in a foreign country, your sandals scraping pavement, with sea wind tangling your hair and rage simmering behind your ribs. I don't remember how long I stood there. Long enough that the street emptied. Long enough for the espresso buzz to wear off. Long enough that humiliation turned into something colder. Sharper. Resolve. I found a small cafe with a charger port. I begged the barista in broken Italian to let me sit, even though I had no money on me. She offered a small nod, perhaps out of pity, and slid a cappuccino in front of me without a word. I plugged my phone in. It took 10 minutes to power up. The first thing I did was try to call him. Straight to voicemail. Then I tried Pete. Blocked. Marco? Also blocked. I stared at the screen, numb. They hadn't just left me. They made sure I had no way to reach them. Like I was a problem they could delete. But they had no idea who they'd just deleted. That night, I slept in a cheap hostel I paid for with the last €50 I found crumpled in the lining of my makeup bag. I used the hostel's computer to look up the nearest US embassy. Florence. For hours by train. I mapped out the route. I wrote it down. But I didn't buy the ticket. I couldn't explain it, not even to myself at the time, but something inside me shifted that night. Sitting on a thin mattress under flickering fluorescent lights, surrounded by strangers and broken dreams, I stopped wanting to go home. Home wasn't safe. Home was a cage. And Gabriel? He was the warden I'd been mistaking for my partner. The next morning, I walked into a pawn shop and sold my wedding ring. He paid $6,000 for that ring. They gave me €500. And I took it. Because freedom doesn't have a price tag. And neither does dignity. That was the moment everything changed. Not instantly. Not with fireworks or movie magic monologues. But subtly. Powerfully. I didn't take the train to Florence. I took a bus in the opposite direction, toward the southern coast. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I wasn't going back. And that, right there, is where my story really begins. Because he thought leaving me in Italy would break me. He thought I'd beg. He thought I'd chase him. He thought I was weak. What he didn't know was that being left behind was the best thing he ever did for me. Because in that moment of abandonment, when the world went quiet and everything I thought I needed was gone, I heard something I hadn't heard in years. Myself. And she was done being silent. The bus ride to the southern coast was long, quiet, and surreal, the kind of ride where you don't cry, don't think, don't even blink too much. You just stare out the window and let the countryside blur past you like chapters in a book you don't want to reread. I didn't have a destination in mind. I didn't even know the name of the village where I got off. All I knew was that it was small, coastal, and far enough from where he left me that I wouldn't accidentally run into him, or worse, run into some version of myself I didn't want to meet again, the obedient wife, the smoothed-over woman with compromise written across her smile. I was done with her. The village was sleepy. A scattering of whitewashed homes, worn shutters, laundry flapping like flags between balconies. Kids played soccer barefoot in the dust. A dog barked lazily at the wind. The kind of place where nothing felt urgent and no one seemed to be rushing to be someone else. It was exactly what I didn't know I needed. I found a pensione, the Italian version of a mom-and-pop guest house, run by an older couple who spoke no English but offered warm eyes and fresh bread. I paid for 3 nights in advance, left my backpack on the bed, and walked to the beach without saying a word. The sea greeted me like an old friend, quiet, wide, eternal. I stood at the edge of the surf until the sun sank low and the air cooled enough to raise goosebumps on my arms. And then I sat down, dug my heels into the sand, and let myself unravel. I didn't sob. I exhaled, like a woman who's been holding her breath for too many years. The grief didn't come in big waves. It came in pieces. A slow inventory of all the things I'd lost long before Gabriel ever drove away. My voice. My confidence. My art. My laugh. I hadn't painted in 3 years. Hadn't danced in 5. Hadn't made a decision without checking his calendar in over a decade. I'd traded freedom for stability. And now I had neither. But weirdly, that realization didn't destroy me. It steadied me. Like a truth I should have known all along, finally stepping into the light. I was no longer accountable to anyone else's expectations. No more pretending. No more shrinking. I didn't know what came next. But for the first time in years, I was curious. The next morning, I woke with the sun and walked to the town square. My plan was simple: find coffee, find Wi-Fi, find clarity. I found coffee. No Wi-Fi. But clarity? That took longer. For 2 days, I drifted. Not lost exactly, just quiet. I wandered open-air markets, let old women squeeze my cheeks and offer me figs I didn't know how to eat properly. I sat in churches that smelled like candle wax and history, even though I hadn't prayed in years. I watched fishermen haul in tangled nets at dawn and stray cats nap in sun patches. I was anonymous. Invisible. And for the first time in forever, that didn't scare me. It thrilled me. One afternoon, while walking back from the bakery with a loaf of bread tucked under my arm like I belonged there, I passed a sign on a chalkboard. Help wanted, olive harvest. Room and food provided. It was posted in a small grocery window. The note was handwritten in shaky Italian, but simple enough to understand. I walked inside. The woman behind the counter looked to be in her 60s, with hair tied back in a gray braid and hands that looked like they'd built everything she'd ever owned. Lavoro? I said, pointing to the sign, then to myself. She tilted her head. You? Americana? I nodded. She squinted at me, then smiled, just barely. Follow. And just like that, I was hired. Her name was Elena. Her husband was Nikos. They didn't have children. Didn't ask too many questions. Didn't care that my Italian was terrible or that my hands blistered after 10 minutes of raking olives. They gave me a bed in a small, clean room above the press house, fed me warm soup and goat cheese, and handed me a wooden rake at sunrise with a nod that meant, "We work now." The first week nearly broke me. The work was physical. Gritty. Endless. I woke sore. Slept sore. Walked sore. But I didn't stop. Because every drop of sweat was proof that I could survive without him. Every olive basket I filled was a small rebellion. Every blister was a scar I chose, not one someone else gave me. Elena didn't speak much English, but she didn't have to. She taught by doing. And watching her work was a lesson in power I didn't know I needed. She was tough, efficient, unapologetic. She didn't thank the earth for giving her food, she commanded it to produce. She didn't ask for help carrying baskets, she lifted them herself. And if I dropped one or tripped or complained about heat, she didn't coddle me. She handed me a wet rag, said "Domani meglio," tomorrow, better, and kept moving. There was something holy in that. In her steadiness. Her no-nonsense love. She didn't pity me. She believed in me. Sometimes silently, but always fully. And I started to believe in me, too. A month passed. Then 2. By then, I could carry a full crate without flinching. I could cook a proper Tuscan stew, make olive soap, string garlic to dry. I could greet neighbors without hesitation, even throw in a joke or two. My body had changed. My posture had changed. My eyes, even, looked different in the mirror, brighter. Sharper. Present. I stopped checking my old email account. I stopped scrolling through his social media like a ghost with no place to haunt. I stopped saying, "I'm fine," and started saying, "I'm not okay yet, but I'm better." I wasn't healed. But I was healing. And that was enough. Then, one day, just when I thought maybe, just maybe, the past had no more claws, I got a message. It wasn't from Gabriel. It was from my sister. Ratch. Gabriel's been calling. Says he hired someone to track you down. Says he's worried. Says he wants you back. What's going on? I stared at the message for a long time. Long enough for my bread to burn in the oven. Long enough for my coffee to go cold. And then I replied with 5 words. Tell him he was right. Right that I could live without him. Right that I would figure it out. Just not in the way he imagined. Because while he drove off to prove a point, I built a life. Not a perfect life. Not a finished one. But a real one. Made of work and sea and sweat and kindness. And the best part? He didn't get to have a say in any of it. The letter came wrapped in soft paper, no return address, just my name, written in the handwriting I used to know better than my own. Gabriel. For a moment, I didn't open it. I just stared at it, heart thudding, like the envelope itself might explode. But it didn't. It just sat there, patient and silent, like him. Inside, folded in precise thirds, was a single note. I know where you are. I'm coming. This has gone on long enough. No apology. No explanation. Just a statement, as if I were a misplaced suitcase he planned to retrieve. 3 hours later, I sat in the courtyard with Elena and Nikos. The sun was setting, and the scent of crushed basil and wood smoke curled around us like memory. I handed her the letter without a word. She read it slowly, her lips thinning. Then, quietly, she asked, "He knows your place now?" I nodded. She looked at Nikos, exchanged a glance, not fear, not worry. Readiness. "He will come," she said. And I believed her. That night, I didn't sleep. I didn't cry either. I just lay in bed, staring at the wooden ceiling beams, listening to the old house breathe. In another life, I would have panicked. Called a friend. Packed a bag. Prepared a speech. But that woman, the one who braced herself around him, didn't live here anymore. I lived here now. And I was ready to meet him on my ground. He arrived 2 days later. The taxi pulled up to the edge of the grove around midday, clouds of dust curling behind the wheels. I saw him through the upstairs window before I heard his voice. Same sunglasses. Same walk. Same illusion of control. He stepped out like a man walking into a restaurant reservation. Confident. Certain. I walked down slowly. No rush. No fear. When he saw me, he froze. I could feel his eyes scanning me like he didn't recognize what he was looking at, the sunburnt skin, the simple linen dress, the hands calloused from real work. I wasn't the woman who left Boston in Gucci loafers anymore. I was someone else. And it terrified him. "Rachel," he said, finally, a small smile breaking across his face. "God. Look at you." I didn't answer. Didn't return the smile. Just waited. I've been worried sick. You blocked me. You left. You disappeared. I blinked slowly. You left me. In Italy. He ran a hand through his hair, a practiced move that used to melt me. Now it just looked like theater. I didn't mean to. I was angry. We were both. It got out of hand. I came back. 5 minutes later. You were gone. I tilted my head. You blocked my number, Gabriel. All three of you did. Did your phone unblock itself too? He hesitated. That wasn't me. That was Pete. Look, I'm not here to argue. I folded my arms. He softened his voice. I'm here to take you home. I actually laughed. Short, dry. It startled him. This is home, I said. What are you talking about? He asked, glancing around like the olive trees were props in a prank. This little village? You live here now? This is a phase, Ratch. I get it. You needed space. You were mad. So was I. But this is... What? I asked, stepping closer. What is this, Gabriel? He frowned. It's not real. You're not a farmer. You're not this person. You're Rachel. My wife. I looked him dead in the eye. I was your wife. He blinked. Slowly. Don't say that. You said it first. On a street in Vernazza. When you drove away and didn't come back. I was hurt. So was I. I was stupid. Yes. You were. I'm sorry. I paused. You're not. You're just surprised I didn't wait. He took a step closer, lowering his voice. Come home with me. We can fix this. I'll book the flight today. You don't have to do this. You don't have to pretend. I felt something shift then, not in him, but in me. The realization that this wasn't about love. It never had been. It was about control. Ownership. And he couldn't stand that he'd lost it. I walked past him to the olive press and picked up a crate of bottles I'd labeled the night before. My hands moved instinctively, without rush, without fear. He followed me. Rachel. I'm not coming with you. He went still. You're serious. I set the crate down gently. Then turned. I rebuilt my life, Gabriel. Not because of you. In spite of you. This place changed you, he whispered. No, I said, stepping into the light. You did. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The wind rustled the trees. The press groaned quietly in the background. And finally, he nodded, not in agreement, but in understanding. He didn't win. He wouldn't. and there was nothing he could do about it. He left with a promise to call, to email, to wait, that he wasn't giving up. I didn't stop him. Didn't need to. Because the version of me who might have believed him? She died the day he thought I needed him to survive. That evening, Elena poured me a glass of homemade wine. We sat under the fig tree in silence for a while. Finally, she said, "You did not shout." "No," I said. "You did not cry." "No." She smiled softly. "You are stronger than him." "I'm not trying to be." "But you are," she said, tapping my chest. "In here." And that was the only truth I needed. It had been 3 weeks since Gabriel left the village. 3 weeks of silence. No texts. No emails. No desperate voice memos at 2 a.m. And then, without warning, a message arrived. Not to me. To Nikos. It was short. Formal. In English, run through Google Translate, clunky and cold. "This is Gabriel Evans. I'd like to speak with Rachel. It's about a child." A child? We were childless. And that was no accident. I never wanted to bring a child into a marriage built on conditions. And Gabriel? He only wanted kids when they could serve a purpose, an accessory to his perfect life. But this message, it didn't sound like he was talking about us. It sounded like he was talking about him. And something had him scared. That same afternoon, he emailed me directly. I almost didn't open it. But I did. "Rachel, I need to ask you something. It's about Augustine." Augustine? That was his son. With Sophie. The woman he married a year after me. The woman he swore he never cheated with. I felt the chill before I even finished reading. He's acting strange. Asking questions. And I did a fertility test. Just to be sure. I didn't expect what I found. I read that line 3 times. Then again. Then once more, because my brain refused to believe the words sitting right there on the screen. Gabriel. The man who accused me of infertility. The man who said I was the reason we never had kids. Had just admitted something he never considered possible. He was sterile. I sat very still, the cursor blinking like a metronome in the background of my spinning thoughts. Sterile. As in, incapable. As in, Augustine might not be his. As in, the man who left me, destroyed me, might now be living a lie himself. Karma, it turns out, doesn't text you first. It just arrives. Later that evening, I stood in the grove, watching the sun melt into the horizon, the air thick with olive and dust. I thought about all the years Gabriel made me feel less than. How he'd smile at dinner parties and mention our struggles like I was defective. How he told his family I didn't want kids, as if it were a choice I made selfishly. How he looked at pregnant women like they were trophies I couldn't earn. And all this time, he was the reason. Not me. Not my body. Him. The next morning, I woke to another email. This one wasn't calm. It was frantic. I need to know if there's a way this could be wrong. The test. It says I produce no viable sperm. None. 0. That's not possible, right? I have a son. I have a son. Then, 5 minutes later. Unless. And then. Did you know? Did I know? No. But God, did I hope now he felt what it was like to question your own body, your worth, your place in the world. Welcome to the egg, Gabriel. The one you handed me like a sentence. Only difference is, I didn't lie to you. But someone lied to him. And that lie was about to shatter everything. Gabriel called me later that day. I didn't answer. So he called again. And again. On the 7th call, I picked up. Not out of mercy. Out of clarity. "Rachel," he said, voice cracking. "Please. I just need to ask you something." "I'm listening." "Sophie," he breathed. "I think she cheated on me. I think Augustine isn't mine." I said nothing. Because some silences are sacred. And this one? It was justice. "You don't know what this is like," he said. "I do," I replied softly. "You taught me." There was a long pause. And then, the truth cracked open. "I found emails," he said, voice trembling. "She was seeing someone. Right after we got married. Right before Augustine was born." He sniffed. I asked her. She denied it. Said I was paranoid. But I knew. I just didn't want to see it. "And now?" I asked. He exhaled. "Now I've taken another test. A second opinion. Different lab. And?" He broke. "I'm sterile, Rachel." "I know," I said. He choked. "You know?" "I knew the moment you admitted it. Because you blamed me. All those years. All that pain. And the whole time, it was never me." He was silent. Because what could he say? "She's denying everything," he muttered eventually. "But I can't trust her. I don't even know who that kid is anymore." "Maybe you never did," I said. He breathed heavily into the line. And then, the question he had no right to ask. "Do you think I deserve this?" I paused. Then answered. "I think life has a funny way of showing us our reflection." Gabriel didn't call again for days. Then, out of nowhere, a message. "He's not mine." Just that. No subject line. No punctuation. Just devastation. He followed it up later with more, a torrent of grief, rage, regret. He had confronted Sophie. She confessed. Said it was a one-time thing. Said it didn't mean anything. Said Gabriel had been so cold, so cruel to you, she didn't know if she could trust him as a husband or a father. "She only admitted it because I cornered her," he wrote. "Because I forced her to say it. I can't even look at him. At Augustine." And for the first time in our entire story, I felt something for Gabriel. Not sympathy. Not revenge. Something more hollow. Pity. Because now he was alone, too. Not because someone left him in Italy. But because he left himself. I didn't respond. Not because I didn't care. Because I finally did. About me. About my peace. About building something stronger than bitterness. 3 weeks later, he emailed again. A final line. "I don't know who I am anymore." And I finally replied. "Then now's your chance to find out." That same night, I sat under the olive trees with Elena and Nikos. The sky stretched wide above us, full of stars, full of stillness. I looked up, breathed in the silence, and felt, for the first time, completely untethered from my old life. Not angry. Not broken. Not bitter. Just free. A year had passed since Gabriel left me on that street in Italy. 12 months. 365 days. And a version of me had died there. But in her place, someone else was born. The olive harvest came and went. The days bled into each other like brushstrokes on an unfinished canvas, long mornings in the grove, quiet lunches with Elena, and evenings filled with the scent of rosemary and garlic. I started to journal again. Not out of obligation, but instinct. I painted again too, on wood, on walls, on scraps of linen. I didn't care if it sold. It wasn't for anyone else. It was for me. I stopped checking my American phone. Stopped looking up Gabriel's name. He faded like a bruise, slow and aching, but eventually gone. What replaced him wasn't a new man, or a revenge plot, or a Hollywood-style comeback. It was a slow, deliberate, sacred rebuilding. One breath. One decision. One seed at a time. I helped Elena and Nikos expand their business. We began bottling olive oil in glass jars with hand-painted labels, my designs. I made a simple website using patchy village Wi-Fi. Orders started coming in from nearby towns, then tourists, then the occasional American couple who found us on Google. We became that little grove with the strong woman and the magic oil. And I became Rachel again. Not Mrs. Gabriel Evans. Just Rachel. And I was enough. I got a letter from my sister in May. He moved out. Put the house up for sale. Sophie kept Augustine. Gabriel's staying in a hotel for now. No one's seen him. Just thought you should know. I read it once. Folded it in half. Didn't cry. Didn't gloat. Didn't even feel much. Because some stories don't need a sequel. They just need to be finished. That summer, Elena handed me a folder after dinner. Inside, papers. Business registration forms. Partnership declarations. You stay, she said. You stay, you belong. I stared at the signature line. It was more than a form. It was a choice. I signed. One afternoon, while hanging laundry, I noticed a young couple walking through the grove. Backpackers, American. She had a sunflower tattoo on her shoulder. He was wearing a Red Sox cap. They looked lost. I smiled and waved them toward the house. Water? I offered. They nodded gratefully. Sorry, the woman said, panting. We were looking for that olive oil place online and our GPS died. I handed her a bottle. The label, hand-drawn, slightly smudged, read, "The grove that healed me." She tilted her head. That's beautiful. Is that your story? I paused, then smiled. It used to be. Later that night, I watched the sunset from the stone wall behind the house. Elena joined me, carrying 2 cups of wine. She didn't say anything for a long time. Then, quietly, "You look peaceful." "I think I am," I said. "You were fire when you arrived." "And now?" She smiled. "Now you are roots." There's no dramatic ending here. No slow-mo scene of me bumping into Gabriel at an airport, perfectly tanned and glowing while he falls to his knees in regret. No scandalous paternity battle, no courtroom gasps. Just this. A grove. A village. A woman with calloused hands, laughing freely. A life that fits. Not because it's perfect, but because it's mine. Sometimes people ask me, "Don't you wish he'd come crawling back? Just to see how far you've come?" And my answer is always the same. No. Because healing isn't about proving anyone wrong. It's about finally living like you were never broken in the first place. And if, one day, Gabriel ever does walk back into my life, I won't shout. I won't cry. I won't flinch. I'll look him in the eye, not to get answers, but to offer one. I'm happy. And that's the most powerful closure of all. So if you've ever been left behind, forgotten, underestimated, or erased, this is your reminder. You're not done. You're just turning the page. And sometimes, the best stories begin after someone thinks you've been written out. Have you ever been left behind but rose stronger? Share your story in the comments. Someone might need to hear it today.
That's it for today's story on Life Reflections. I'd love to hear your take. Drop a comment below with your thoughts or a story of your own. If you enjoyed this, give a like and subscribe to keep the reflections coming. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.